Here with head coach Kamie Ethridge. Coach, your team heads back onto the road this week. You play a pair of top 25 teams in Arizona State. It's two teams that you saw just a little less than a month ago here at Beasley Coliseum. So how are you and your staff really preparing for the Sun Devils and the Wildcats this week?
Just back to the grind. Honestly, we've spent a lot of time on ourselves and just trying to get us right. Coming off a real disappointing effort game against Utah, where we really, got outplayed and didn't quite follow the game plan very well in the scout. So we've had some high-level practices to get our attention back to the details that are required for us to even have a chance to win the game. So, we've got to fix that first, and then we go on the road, and you hope that you can just play with great emotion and passion and have a great work ethic, because you're going to face, not only two top 25 teams, but two unbelievably great environments where, fan base and community is so behind these two teams, and they have a lot of excitement around their programs because they have a lot to play for.
You said you guys have been kind of focused on you and working on yourselves and improvement. What's been the message, and what are kind of some of the areas that you're looking to improve here as you have about 3 to 4 weeks left in this season?
Well, I think it still goes back to we're not perfectly built. We don't quite have enough shooters to really stretch the floor and get by on shooting. We don't have a ton of ball handlers, so we have to be really good at things like that. And our post player is really young. We're our back to the basket post play. So we're not completely built where we can just go out and score a lot of points and out-talent other teams that we're playing, especially in the Pac-12, where you're facing, really quality talent and teams and programs and cultures. So to combat that, to even have a chance with anything, you just have to be so dialed in and so good defensively and what we can control, and I know everybody says that, and it's the cliche of all cliches of, effort and playing physical and making choices to put yourself in plays where they're game-winning plays, whether that's a loose ball, whether that's a rebound with two hands instead of one, whether that's just running back on trans D. We've just fallen off on we don't have a consistent effort that it takes to be really consistent and to sustain sometimes when we can't score the basketball. And that's really what we saw against Utah. We got outworked. We got outworked in so many phases of the game, and that was against a really young Utah team. So we're going to face a lot more experience and the road and those things, so it's going to even be a bigger challenge for us.
What are you working on, and what are some of the things that you're working on to try to find that consistency through the entire game? Because this weekend alone, you just had a couple of fourth quarters where you scored 28 on Friday in the fourth quarter. You come back on Sunday, you score 29 points in the fourth against Utah. What are you guys trying to work on to try to find that consistency throughout all four quarters?
Well, I think it's what's been exciting for us and a little bit better for us is that we have found a passion and a willingness to fight and to continue to compete. Obviously, we had some success against Colorado and came back and won that game. We were a little bit too far behind against Utah, and we put ourselves in a hole. And, all we can do is, as a coaching staff, I feel like, is continue to preach and communicate and build this program on the concepts of it is hard to win. It takes so much mental, physical, emotional effort to put yourself in a position to win games, and we still don't learn that. We haven't learned that well enough. We don't have great habits in, the attention to detail of how hard you have to work in the first quarter, coming out of a timeout, coming out of halftime, whatever it may be. We've had some real inconsistencies in the effort phase and ultimately the execution. So we're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep trying to grow it, and we're going to continue to put players on the floor that really have a passion and a will to go do the effort parts of the game.
One of the players that's been big for you guys getting back this weekend was Ula Motuga. She came in and scored a 14-point game after Stanford. She came back and scored 14 points against Utah after missing a couple of games here in the homestand. How big was it for her to come back, and just what kind of lift did that give you guys, the performance that she had, and how big is her development over these next 3 to 4 weeks just moving forward?
Well, obviously, not having Ula in a couple of those games really hurt us. She is our smartest player. She has great IQ. And clearly she plays a lot of minutes for us. It's a key spot on the floor, the 4 player that has to guard a lot of the really great players in our league. So we really need, and we don't have much depth to begin with. So when we lose a player out of the lineup, it really hurts our depth and how we can play. So getting her back in just helps us in every phase of the game. And, I've loved her the last 2 days of practice. I mean, she's starting to take on a leadership role of doing things the right way and not trying to get by on just the fact that she's going to play sometimes regardless of her situation. Sometimes we've played 2 players that shouldn't be playing just because of our lack of depth in some things. But she takes a lot of responsibility in what she's not doing well for us, and she's really taken on a leadership role to improve her own effort, to improve her own, aggression to try to score the basketball, which, again, we need her to score the basketball. We need points in that position. And ultimately, I think she's taken on a leadership role in holding herself and others accountable for the things going on the floor. And we need that from her more than anything.
Another player that's been sparked off the bench is Joanna Muze. Just talk a little bit about her game and just what she's been able to bring off the bench to really give you guys a spark off that.
Well, I keep going back to, every time we've gotten Joe back in, ready to really log all the minutes and perhaps even start the game, she's had a setback, whether it's an injury or something like that. And she's just now coming back into that real comfort level. She's not missed any practices. And she's just a great athlete, long, defensively. Obviously, she can affect the game. She can guard a lot of different positions. She can pressure the ball better than most anyone else on our team. And then to have her scoring the basketball like she is. I mean, I've really been happy with how she's competed and how she's affected the game when she's walked on the floor. And again, that's another one where we're still trying to find points in certain positions on the floor besides Nell and Bobby, who seem to consistently give us, a 20 spot almost every time. Getting Joe in that scoring lineup or getting her to the point where she's getting double digits is huge, just like it is for Yo.
All right, Coach, thank you for your time. Best of luck this week in the desert. We'll talk to you next week, and go Cougs.
All right, let's go Cougs.